Hi, everybody. And today I have Ken with me. Ken is from Mindful Money Matters, and he's a blogger, also content creator, and he's also very active on Twitter. And all the contents that he writes about, tweets about, is about personal finance, investing, and also helping you to understand how to manage your money. And today I'm so excited to have him with us.
Ooh, that's a great intro. Thank you so much for having me, Yassi. I appreciate you so much. Loving what you're doing.
Thank you, Ken. Welcome to Fast Track Podcast.
Fast track. We're here. We're here.
Yeah, so your Twitter name is called Mindful Money Matters as well as your blog. Can you tell us why you call it Mindful Money?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm really passionate about just being mindful about your money because honestly, you look at Twitter, there's a ton of great people on there. A lot of people have been really successful, especially on money Twitter. And the reality is, not everybody has as much money to get started into investing and creating freedom for themselves. So I just thought, by having a take where you're being mindful about your money, not necessarily promoting wealth or just trying to get rich, it could let the average person feel like they have a chance, they have a chance. Because for me, growing up, I didn't have all the money in the world, but I slowly learned that if I was mindful of my money and I tried to save and I tried to invest, that eventually life would start to get a little bit easier for me. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what inspired it, just through practicing what I preach. And now we have 3M, Mindful Money Matters.
Yeah, I like the name because personally I've been through this journey from not mindful about my money to mindful about my money.
For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Listen, we all have to go through it. And again, like we don't have to act like we just know everything about everything. A lot of people jump on Twitter and they see these bigger accounts and what their following is like and the things they tweet about and think, "Oh man, I gotta go do that. I gotta figure out what it is that I know really well and make sure that I act like I know everything about it." And for me, at least, I don't have all the money in the world, but I'm passionate about investing. I'm passionate about teaching people about personal finance and when you have something that you're passionate about, it's better off you run with it instead of acting like you just know everything about it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Where's
Yeah.
this passion coming from? When did you start first learn about personal finance and money management skills?
This is a good question. So it goes a little bit back. So I'd say the first person that really started to teach me about money was my grandmother. So my grandma, she's from a completely different country. I'm from America, from New York City. And when she migrated over here, she had nothing but a few sweaters to herself. She worked, got up every single day, cleaned people's homes, like did whatever she could to kind of scrape money together to feed her family. And she's someone that really inspired me because she raised not only my mom, but raised all of my uncles and my aunts by herself. And now she has a huge portfolio of amazing stocks, great investments. And I always asked myself, even from when I was a kid, I was like, damn, grandma really did it. I don't know how she did it, but she really made it work. And hearing her just journey and how she made it to America and essentially built something for herself taught me that you don't have to come from money in order to create wealth for yourself. So she was really the person who inspired me to really start taking investing more seriously.
Wow, amazing, because not that many people have this kind of influence from family members, And
For sure.
since you learned it from your grandma, will you just be aware of money, be aware of investing, or did you also later actively read books and learn about it?
So grandma, she was my grandma. I was much younger, so when she told me about investing, I was a kid. I probably wasn't older than 12 years old. So I was curious about it, but as you probably would remember, if we're talking back then, well, I'm 25, so if we're talking more than 10, almost 50 years ago, there wasn't a Robinhood. There wasn't an online version for Charles Schwab. There wasn't Vanguard online or anything like that. So for me, I didn't really have all the knowledge I needed to get started with investing per se. A book that really changed my life, however, was in the fifth grade. Rich Dad Poor Dad had just came out by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm sure you've heard of it. Great book. amazing family. And reading that book, even in the fifth grade, I mean, I didn't understand everything, but I definitely learned that money is way different from what I remembered it at that age. Back then, I thought, okay, you get rich by, playing sports or being an entertainer. And that's all I thought, genuinely. But that book really changed my perspective. So I'd say Rich Dad Poor Dad for sure.
Yeah, for sure. If the audience, if any of you have not read it, please just read it.
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead and read that. That's a great book. That's a great book. I got to reread it, but it's some phenomenal stuff. Phenomenal stuff for sure.
Mhm. It's very easy to understand, but the concept is so important that can be used lifelong. Back then, after you read this book, did you do something different with your own money? With your own personal finance?
Did I do anything different? For a while, I didn't. I had just been soaking up the knowledge. I still didn't really know what I was doing. So outside of talking to my grandma, I just didn't know if there was a real actionable step for me to take. And then I would say at around maybe 19 or 20, that's when I discovered Robinhood. And so that's when I kind of invested in my first stock. I'm trying to remember what it was. If it wasn't PSEC, it was like IIEP or like Aurora, something very just like, hmm, could have went with the S&P 500, but okay, I took like some random stock, and it excited me though because I made a little tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of money. It wasn't anything at all, but from there it definitely inspired me. So I just started learning more, researching more stocks, and that's how my love for investing really grew.
Well, from 19 years old, you've been an investor for already 6 years.
Shoot, yeah, when you put it like that, yeah, definitely. It's been it's been a little bit longer than I guess I realized for sure.
Okay, you started to way earlier than majority of other people out there. Good
I was
start.
motivated. I was motivated. I was trying to figure it out, and I probably would have tried to do it early, but I just didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. And it's so funny because with investing, and I'm sure you probably know too, it's just like with anything, when you get a little bit of success, you always like beat yourself up and you're like, dang, I wish I had just, at least for me, I'm always like, man, imagine if I went back even further, if I started even sooner. But you can't beat yourself up. You gotta just jump in. So
Everybody said that, everybody said once they learned about personal finance, the right
yeah.
money mindset, investing, everybody said, "Oh, I wish I could have started earlier." I said the same thing, by the way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What about you? Do you invest at all? When did you start investing,
I
if
actually seriously started investing last year.
Wow, that's amazing. Why are you laughing at yourself? That's so great. That's amazing.
Yeah, but last year is when I was 32 years old, not 19.
See that? That's bad. Now you're comparing yourself. See that? That's whack. You shouldn't be comparing
No, no,
yourself.
it's never
At
too
least
late.
you started.
It's
Yeah,
never
you
too late.
started. You
Yeah.
started, you still have a chance of being financially free, and you probably will. This podcast is awesome. It's gonna only get bigger. I'm sure you're doing other great stuff. Don't hate on yourself, Yassi. I'm watching
No,
you.
no, it's
Don't do
okay.
that.
It's better now than it's better now than later. And I think
Yeah,
after talking to, we also have this fast track money course, and after talking to a lot of students, we realized that actually it's a natural phase in life that when you
yeah.
started to get your first job, you feel like, oh, I made it, my first job, my first paycheck. I'm going to buy something nice for myself,
For
go out, have
sure.
a drink with friends, all this lifestyle things happening. And a few years down the road, maybe late 20s, like you have done all
Mhm.
this, traveled, like, okay, what next? How will be, my financial future will be? Then people start to think about investing, saving, financial futures. And then when they start to have babies, suddenly their investment
Mm.
horizon become 20 years instead of like a little bit right now.
Yo, it's so true. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's true. And that's the power of, I think, investing and why it's so important. Like now more than ever, I think people are realizing that if you invest, you have the chance to give yourself and your family a brighter future.
yeah.
It's gone are the days where you just go to work and you get your 9 to 5 check and okay, you
Mhm.
just save and then you're good. Like that doesn't happen anymore. You gotta get creative.
Yeah.
So investing's a really important thing, I think.
What is your investment strategy?
Another good question. You got some good questions, Yassi. My investment strategy is buy and hold. And what I mean by that for anyone who's new to investing, that means exactly what it sounds like. You buy or just buy into any company that you believe in and you hold it for as long as you possibly can. And so I've implemented this strategy over the last 4 or 5 years or so. And I try to make sure I hold anything that I buy. The caveat with that is the only way this type of strategy is successful is if you pick stocks that are actually winning stocks, meaning stocks that have the best chance of performing well. The easiest way to figure that out is to look at the top performing, companies just in the world. When you think of brands like Target, when you think of Johnson and Johnson, when you think of Amazon, these are companies that are not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And so I try to look for companies like that. Just hold for dear life, and just keep on investing in them, and it works. It really does.
Why do you not invest in ETFs?
I knew you were going to ask you that. So I do invest in ETFs. I do invest in ETFs. I have a few that I like. VTI is a good one. SPY is a great one. So SPY is an S&P 500 ETF. I believe it's an ETF. I'm pretty sure. Right now it's around like it's a pretty expensive stock, but the return is really great. It pretty much takes all of the top performing large cap companies, like I think it's the top 400 or 500, and it replaces, each company based off of who falls off, who's doing the best. And the return on it is just it's phenomenal. It's a lot of money to get. So,
Is it the
I
same as S&P 500 or it's another
yes.
version of S&P 500?
It's the same, but it's just another version, right? So it's like it's nothing super different from VTI or like there's quite a few
Okay.
other ones out there. I don't want to butcher any names, but it's just called SPY. You should definitely
Yeah.
check it out. I started getting in on that, and it's good. It's really good.
Okay.
You can look into it. So yeah, no, but ETFs, yes, I do invest in ETFs, and for anyone who's a new investor or an old one, if you just want something that's going to perform well, highly recommend you look into ETFs, look into mutual funds, and look into the best performing companies. You'll sleep well at night. You won't be waking up wondering, oh man, this stock crashed. I got to go trade it. And I used to do that a lot. Now I'm on cruise control.
So
So
let's talk about that. You used to do that a
yeah,
lot. What did you do back
yeah.
then?
Oh God. Yes, yeah, I was doing some ridiculous stuff. I used to so I told myself, you know what? Easiest way for me to make money, is to just trade any stock that I believe in. If I believe in it and I see that it can make me some money, I'm going to buy it. So this was when marijuana stocks were like a huge deal. 2, 3 years ago, everybody was talking about that boom and everybody thought they were going to get rich. So I invested in Aurora Cannabis, which was like one of the first top tier. Like everybody's like, oh, Aurora. They were supposed to do a deal with Coca Cola. Coca Cola wanted to do infused, I think, CBD soda or something like that. They were talking about this huge deal. Everybody was raving at it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy some. I got in really early. I made some decent money. I think I doubled my investment. And I was like, oh, this is so easy. I knew it. So, like, the issue with that is, and it's gonna get worse, but before we even go there, the issue with buying stocks short term, meaning buying them and then just selling it right after, is you can never time the market. It's impossible. You're gonna win sometimes, but there's gonna be a lot of chances where you lose. But a lot of times, people who just buy short term and sell, they're chasing the high that comes with selling at the right time. That's my personal opinion. You're just chasing the high because when you do it the first time and it works, you're like, "It's worked," and then you do it another time and another time. But the fact of the matter is, you're never going to win 100%. So I sold Aurora. I did pretty decent, and the stock tanked after, right? So I still had some left. So I started losing money, losing money, losing money, and I was like, "What the heck? I just made money on this. Why am I losing money?" And what ended up happening was I lost so much money from selling and still holding a little bit that it was almost like I made no money at all between what I made when I first sold it and from what I kept. So it was null and void. I was like, what am I doing? So then because I don't give up, unfortunately, I was like, okay, I'll change my strategy. That's what it was. So I ended up buying another stock. I bought some JetBlue. This was during COVID, and I told myself I'm gonna hold it but I'm not going to hold it forever. I did that, did pretty decent too on that, and then I sold it. But then I was like, what's the point of me doing this? I keep on holding stuff and selling it. If I sell it, yes, I'll make some money, but I'll never actually obtain financial freedom because the whole point of holding an investment is to own it. You gotta own it. If you don't own it, you don't make any money on it. That's the truth. So if anybody's listening and they're thinking about investing, whether it's stocks, whether it's crypto, real estate, anything in life, if you want to obtain an asset, plan on holding it, or else it's not going to be worth anything to you. So that was what caused me to start jumping into ETFs and all of those great things.
That's why you say now you just buy and hold.
Buy and hold for
Yeah.
dear life.
Imagine if you are earning, for anyone like who is earning, have income coming in
Mhm.
and not retired, living on the assets, right? If you
Yep.
sell, you make money. What else can you do with the cash? You still need to buy something else, right?
Exactly, exactly. You have a family to feed, you have yourself to feed, what are you gonna do with that lump sum of money? And then there's taxes, that's another thing people forget about. So you have to be really strategic when you decide to invest. Otherwise, you'll be left with a lot of money, and guess what? The government's gonna take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's not
So
worth it. Yeah.
it's the system is designed to make sure that you keep your money in one place and that you're investing it.
Hmm. And you mentioned about financial freedom. Do you plan to retire early, achieving financial freedom?
Good question. So at first, I told myself I really wanted to, and now I'm like in this new phase where I'm telling myself that I want to keep on working, but I want to set my own hours. So I feel like there's a lot more power in that, right? Because if you like pay attention to successful entrepreneurs like Kevin O'Leary, like Mark Cuban, anyone, Barbara Corcoran, that's like the whole Shark Tank lineup now that I think about it. But
My favorite show.
I love that show. I love that show. So when you look at those people, what ends up happening is those are all successful people who decided to retire early. But guess what? You still see them till this day. You still see them working for their companies. Why? Because, you know, having money doesn't necessarily mean being on vacation for the rest of your life. So for me, I'm just looking at those people and I'm saying, well, if Kevin O'Leary is worth this much, Mark's worth this much, Bob is worth this much, and they're all working, clearly there's a reason why. So like now I'm just like, maybe I'll take a little bit of a break, but I think there's a lot of value for people who can wake up every day and have something going on. Because if you become a multimillionaire, yes, assuming you're already not, because you're killing it, if when that time does come, when that time does come, what are you gonna do? Sit home all day? Sit home and watch Squid Games or like play Scrabble on your phone? Like I don't know. So for me, I think I just want to set my own hours. That's what I care about the most.
I think there were two schools of thoughts. There were group
Mhm.
of people they want to achieve financial freedom. They can retire and do whatever they want later
Yeah,
after they achieve financial freedom. Or you can, with before you achieve financial freedom, you can think about what you want to do. Just do the thing that you want now and make it happen now while achieving financial freedom.
yeah. So wait, is that your opinion? Because that sounds like you thought about that. Like, what is your opinion on retiring?
So for me, last year I went through like a lot of things in my life, and I did
Mhm.
rethink about how I want to live my life. Therefore, now I have my own business. I'm running my business. I'm growing my business. So sometimes I think late last year I worked so much, and early this
Mhm.
year as well I worked so much. I don't even feel tired. I just feel very energetic. Even
Yeah.
doing the podcast, like I'm interviewing you, I don't see it as a work. I enjoy having conversations with you. So
The
yeah, to me, I agree with you. I also want to do the things that it's work, but I don't feel it's work. It's because I chose to do it. Yeah, and then at the same time,
exactly.
yeah, bring value to people, and then make income from it, and then save and invest, and then build a solid financial future.
That's literally how I feel now. And it's funny because like starting a podcast is obviously a lot of work, but it's like it's all about how you see it. Like if you see it as work, it's gonna be work. But if you're passionate about it, just like with anything, you're gonna have all this energy. Because I'm going through the same thing too. Like I'm working all these hours, and then I'm coming home, and then I'm blogging, and then I'm on Twitter, and then I'm on here, and I'm and all of those things, podcasting, and you're just like, sometimes you think you're crazy, but then you realize in the back of your head, like, but I like this. I see a
Yeah,
future
yeah,
in this. This is scalable. So, I don't know. I feel the same exact way. For me, I
yeah.
think setting my hours, would be great. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll change. Maybe
Mhm.
I'll be like, yeah, so you're right. I'll just retire and just never look back.
And okay, my next question is, do you have a net worth goal?
A net worth goal. I do. I do. So my goal is to be a multimillionaire, honestly. And it's funny, I don't talk about this at all. I
The more
should.
you talk
No,
about
you're
it, the
right.
more it becomes a reality.
Right. So for me, I'm actively working on you're good. You're a good podcaster. So for me, I'm actively working on trying to achieve multi-millionaire status. I always used to tell myself since I was a kid, like 10, like I'm gonna make $1 million. Back when you thought $1 million was everything, right? And in life, you look at things now, $1 million isn't gonna actually do much for you. I think they say on average, like to raise one child costs $1 million.
Yes, yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it changes your perspective as you get older. And I was like, you know what? If I really want to do this, I have to think beyond a million. I gotta 10x that, 20, 50, 100 even. And that's how I live my life. So I guess I don't have a specific number, but I do have a range, and the range is honestly well over 20 million. I think it's possible for me. I'm making sure that I work towards that, and we'll see what happens. But I'm gunning for that because if you aim high enough, I think you'll get there.
Yes,
So
yes, yes. While you're talking about this, I have goosebumps because it's all about do not limit your own mind. Like
yeah,
people, I wouldn't say people, but in general, we tend to set a goal that is like achievable, realistic. But somehow, if you set the goal too low, yes, you can achieve it, but it also hinders your potential to achieve
yeah,
bigger goals. So
yeah,
I
it's
like it.
true. Yeah, you get in your own way. I do
Yeah.
that a lot, so I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not limiting myself no more. 100 million. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I'm wrong. You know what I mean? So
Imagine many of our audience, they all have this growth mindset. They all think big, dream big. They might have the same plan as you do. And then would you want to would you want to share with us what are some of the money tips that you are implementing yourself that you see, is helping you to build up wealth over time?
for sure, another great question. I think for me, what I'm trying to do, and I think a lot of people should aim to do is pay down your debt while also investing your money. When you do both at the same time, it really fast tracks you to wealth because you're actually increasing your net worth. So like net worth is like this it's classified as almost like this vain metric, right? Because we're always trying to figure out who this person's net worth is, that person. But the reason why it's important is because it puts, financial institutions on notice about your assets without really having to dig too deep into figuring out what's going on. So when you work on building your net worth, it's almost like this report card that like lets you, it's almost like your GPA. It's your financial GPA. Next to your credit score, I'd say that's more important. But for the sake of this, focusing on your net worth is gonna do a lot for you if you work on increasing it. And the simplest way to do it, whatever debt you have, credit card debt, student loan debt, car loan debt, anything that's bad debt, focus on paying it off every single month. So for me, every month I work on doing that. And every month I set aside a certain amount of money that I know I'm putting towards investments. So if that's stocks, I'll do that. If it's crypto, cool. If it's a new startup, I'll go and try and do that too. Just get creative and just make sure you're putting some money away to do both, and shoot, you'll be fine. You'll look up and be
Mhm.
like, "Dang, I'm worth this much." Seriously, it can happen. It can
Yeah, yeah,
happen.
yeah. Yeah, recently I was talking to a couple of friends, and then both of them are high income earners, really
Mhm.
high. I mean, high is high. and then and then we talk about certain tax that people need to pay once they achieve certain net worth. And
Yeah,
then our friend was surprised, like, oh, if you are entitled, to pay that tax, you must have that much money. And I was like,
right.
for sure, you guys have it too. But because they never tracked their net worth, so they didn't know, like, oh,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have that much net worth. Like, I'm sure that you have that much money. They were not aware of that.
Yeah, yeah, isn't it weird? And that's how net worth works. It's like, unless you're checking it actively and like re-looking at what you own, and because assets appreciate, and that's why we need to invest in them. Assets appreciate. So you can hold an asset in something and maybe it was worth a certain amount of time, at one point, and then literally 5 years later, you're like, dang, like it skyrockets, and that's why it's so important to talk to people who
Yeah.
do have a higher net worth, because if you want to become wealthy, you need to learn from them and figure out, like you said, even something as simple as a tax situation,
Yeah.
just how that stuff works. So, yeah, man, net worth is important for sure.
So I assume you track your net worth?
You know what's crazy? I do and I don't. So like kind of, I kind of do, but at the same time, because a net worth isn't um, always as accurate as, say, a credit score or just what you have liquid, I try not to fall into the vanity metric of net worth, because if I did, I think I'd walk around with a slightly bigger head than I should. But I do try to focus more so on what I have liquid and just what my credit score is in general, because your net worth can be a certain amount, but if you have terrible credit, you're gonna need to ask
Mhm.
someone else for a loan because you're not gonna get much. So
Right.
that's the balance. What about you? Do you track your net worth?
Yes, every single month.
Really? What do you use? Do you use Mint?
No, we actually don't have that many options as you guys in the
Oh, okay.
US, because you mentioned
Yeah.
like credit score. It's not like a major topic here in Switzerland. Yeah, so we just use Excel, which we
Okay.
developed. Yeah, we also put that in the course for students as well. And then at the end
Yeah.
of each month, me and my husband come together and we put update
Yeah.
all our numbers.
Of course. Of course. That's gotta be exciting.
Yes,
That's ex-
coming back to this mindful money matters topic.
Mhm.
Personally, since I started tracking my net worth, and I'm so much more aware of my money. Like it's really, I'm
Oh.
mindful about my money.
Love it.
It's very helpful. It's really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. For
And
sure. Yeah.
so the last question I have for today is that about your what you are doing, your your content creation, your blog, your Twitter, your uh, everything that you are doing on the side, like I
Yeah.
say, side hustle. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that, and then where people can find you online?
Yeah, sure. So I have a blog. It's called Mindful Money Matters. You can find it mindfulmoneymatters.blog, not .com, .blog. And yeah, I upload every single week new articles, anything surrounding finance. So personal finance, financial news, crypto, stocks, startups. I interview a lot of people as well. So there's a lot of interesting takes from other people who feel a certain way about money, not just me. And then on Twitter, you can find me at mindfulmoney247. Also giving a lot of game out on there. You can catch a lot of my podcast snippets on there and the blogging tips too. So that's really where you can find me for the most part. Got a podcast as well, and I'm definitely gonna have to invite you on there too, yes, because you're killing it. It's called Mindful Money Matters. You can find it on Anchor across all platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and
Yeah,
whatever else have you. So that's pretty much it about me.
great. And check out the show notes, audience. I always call my audience audience. It's such a boring name.
You trying to like figure out a cool name or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
put all the links in the show notes. If you're interested, check out Ken, Mindful Money Matters. Thank you for being here with us.
Pleasure having me. Thank you.